Hello again, and thanks for coming back for more Queen of the Kitchen. Hopefully you caught my last episode on chocolate chip cookies, but if not, click here to learn how to make the best cookies you will ever taste. We're making a return to healthy eating this time, so I'm going to show y'all another one of my go-to recipes. This one's a frittata. What's great about a frittata is it's delicious for breakfast, lunch, brunch, dinner, really anytime you want a quick, easy, healthy go-to meal. A frittata is basically an omelet, but instead of flipping it, you just finish it off in the oven. What's great is it's super versatile. You can load it up with really anything you like. I happen to really like using fresh sauteed vegetables, but you can use meat, potatoes, grains, whatever you want, or whatever's in your fridge. I made my first frittata actually a couple years ago. I was throwing a brunch party for 20 people and I couldn't figure out what to do. And frittata was like this really easy, fun, really fancy looking meal. So I decided to make one. After that, it was such a hit, I decided to start making them for myself. So I got this cute little 5-inch frittata pan that makes the perfect personal frittata. The giant party frittata used 20 eggs, which was insane. Usually I use 2 eggs for myself, and my general rule is 2 to 3 eggs per person. If those people are boys, go with 2, 3, 4 maybe sometimes, because they tend to eat a little more. Step 1 is to preheat your oven to 400 degrees and make sure that your oven rack is on the highest position. I'm gonna start with the kale. What you're gonna do is lay out the kale leaf and just slice on either side of the stem. The stem is really tough, so you don't wanna use that. You can just put that off to the side. I'm gonna chop everything pretty small, just so you get nice little everything in every bite. That's the kale. I'm gonna do the mushrooms. Make sure you pop out the stems again. They're just not really worth having around, kind of mess with the texture a little bit. All right, so now that the mushrooms are done, we are gonna chop up the tomato. Make sure you cut off the ends. There. I like to use Roma tomatoes. You can really use any kind you like. But Roma tomatoes generally a good size. They also tend not to be so juicy, which is not a perk if you're using them raw, but if you're cooking them into something with eggs, it's nice because the juicier things tend to make the eggs a little watery. No bueno. So just get that into some nice little pieces there. We don't actually even need the whole tomato for this. Garlic. Always really enjoy putting garlic in my food. It just gives it an extra little kick. I like fresh garlic. You can buy minced garlic to keep in the fridge. It's very similar, but there's something about just like a fresh garlic clove that you chop yourself. It just feels good to me. So just chop off the end, and then there's a little trick here. You put your knife on top of it. Be careful, you don't want to slice your hand, but using the heel of your hand, you just like that, and it smashes, and the skin will come right off, mostly. So then from there, just want to mince that up. Make sure you mince that nice and small so you don't get a mouthful of garlic at any point, delightful as that would be. And last but not least, the onion. Everyone has their methods for chopping onions. You can do it however it makes you happy. I just use 1 slice or 2 slices of onion for this recipe for a little frittata. You don't have a whole lot of room in the teeny tiny little pan, so you just want to keep it pretty small. Granted, the vegetables do shrink when you saute them because the water comes out and they sort of lose a little volume. Just chop that up, whatever size you like. And that's that. So the next step is you want to take your big skillet, turn the burner on to high heat, and throw in a little bit of olive oil. Not too much, but enough that it catches all the veggies. While that's heating, gather your mushrooms. Those go in first because they take the longest to cook. It's okay if you get a little bit of the other stuff in with it. Not a big deal. All right, so we got our mushrooms. I'm gonna throw them in there. Give them a little toss around. Maybe add a little bit more olive oil. Hear that sizzle? We want to let that happen for a minute or two. Means the mushrooms are headed in the right direction. Once the mushrooms are not done, but well on their way, you want to go ahead and gather your tomatoes and kale and add those into the pan. So those take the second longest amount of time to cook. So again, just give that all a nice little toss. And finally, you want to add in the onion and garlic. All those little pieces. You do not want to cook the onion too long because otherwise it will caramelize, and that's not the flavor we're going for with this frittata. So once that's tossed in, turn off the heat, move your skillet from the heat, and the next step, this is very important, is we are going to grease our little frittata pan. Do not forget this step. Your frittata will stick and it will be tragic. So, grab your cooking spray, give it a good shake, and spray the pan. Make sure you get the edges, that's important. You don't want to use too much oil or the edges of your frittata are going to get crispy. Of course, if that's what you're into, by all means, go for it. Put your little frittata pan on the burner, turn on the heat. You don't want it on high because that'll be a bigger flame than pan, but go ahead and put it around medium and let that just heat up. While that is heating, we are going to grab our eggs. I really like to use organic eggs. I think they have a much nicer flavor and just a richer texture overall than regular eggs. Plus, you get to avoid all those delightful hormones that who knows what's going in those other chickens. So, with a whisk or a fork or whatever you've got, you just want to give the eggs a nice beating and whip them. You don't want them completely like fluffy, but just fluff them up a little bit. Just like that. That's about it. Just a couple little bubbles just to show you frothed it up a bit. That should be nice and hot by now. And we're gonna go ahead and pour our eggs in. Scrape out all the egg, make sure you get all that in there. I'm gonna add in the veggies. All those in there. It doesn't look like it's gonna fit, but it will, trust me. Get all that in there, give it a nice little stir with your spatula. Want to make sure the egg really coats the vegetables. So you can scrape down the sides a little bit just so everything is nice and covered. And then you just want to let that set for a minute. It's just going to cook a little on the bottom. It's not going to cook all the way through at this point. While that's going, we are going to open up the goat cheese. Nice, delicious, fresh goat cheese log. And then this, we just scrape a little bit of goat cheese on top. If you have your goat cheese at less than really, really cold, it's sometimes a little harder to crumble, but just do the best you can. More goat cheese the merrier, right? So now that you've got some nice little goat cheese spots, we are going to remove this from the heat. Grab an oven mitt. Unlike the nice non-stick skillet, the cast iron does not have a grippy handle. Do not grab the handle of your cast iron. You will burn the heck out of your hand. So, with your oven mitt, grab onto your little cast iron, pop it on the top shelf of your oven, and leave it there for the next 5 or 6 minutes while it cooks. Once your frittata is done cooking, go ahead and grab it out of the oven. Grab another pot holder here. And you can just use your rubber spatula to slide it on out of the pan and right onto a plate. Now, if you made a little one, you can just put it on your plate, sprinkle it with a little bit of pink salt, freshly ground pepper, and enjoy it. If you made a big frittata for a party, you can put it onto a wood or bamboo cutting board and slice it up just like a pizza. Whatever size frittata you make, anyone who sees and tastes it is sure to be impressed. Not only does it look beautiful, but it's super fancy too. Just the word, frittata. So much fancier than an omelet. Not to mention, way easier to make. Seriously, do not ask me to flip an omelet. I'm the queen of the kitchen and I mess those up all the time. So, there you go. Another quick, easy home-cooked meal for the healthy home chef.